Imagine having your 17-year-old daughter dragged away by men claiming to be HOA security all because your garden gnomes didn't match their approved color palette. That's exactly what happened to me last summer. What those power-hungry HOA tyrants didn't know was that I spent 18 years as a federal marshal before becoming a single mom. They picked the wrong mother to intimidate that day. I watched them drag my daughter into their so-called security vehicle while neighbors stood by, some filming with their phones. But what happened next left the entire community speechless. After retiring from federal law enforcement, I moved with my daughter, Ellie, to Cedar Creek Estatesa, a quiet suburban community with well-maintained lawns and seemingly friendly neighbors. I earned this peaceful life after nearly 2 decades of dangerous assignments protecting witnesses and tracking fugitives. The first few years were everything I dreamed about during long stakeouts and tense courtroom assignments. I restored my grandfather's 1967 Mustang, coached Ellie's softball team, and even won Garden of the Month twice for my collection of rare hydrangeas. The neighbors appreciated having a former marshal around. I was known simply as Ellie's mom. The HOA back then was more about potlucks and seasonal festivals than enforcement. But everything changed the day our longtime HOA president moved to Florida. A special election was scheduled on a Tuesday morning. Only 22 of the 156 homeowners voted. That's how Franklin Mercer became HOA president with just 14 votes. Mercer had a history: failed political runs, an oversized house with wall-to-wall surveillance cameras, and a flagpole flying his custom family crest. Within days, the friendly community began transforming into something unrecognizable. Mercer rolled out his Community Excellence Initiative, expanding the HOA rulebook from 12 pages to 64. His first move was to create the Compliance Task Force, 3 men with no law enforcement background but dressed to play the part. Their leader, Ron Packard, was a burly man who'd flunked the police academy 3 times. His deputies, Dean Wilkins, a twitchy guy in an ill-fitting uniform, and Troy Barker, a muscle-bound wannabe cop. They patrolled the neighborhood with clipboards and SUVs decked out in amber roof lights. They fined Janet, my 72-year-old neighbor, $500 for a bird feeder that had hung unchanged for 12 years. I helped her draft an appeal, which Mercer denied personally, citing executive authority. I noticed a pattern. Those most aggressively fined were elderly, single, or frequently away. At a community meeting, I challenged this selective enforcement. Mercer turned crimson and pounded his custom gavel. As the crowd dispersed, I heard him mutter to Packard, "Make a note of Miss Sullivan's property. We need a full inspection." That night I received my first violation, $250 for oil stains on my driveway. The harassment escalated. The task force began parking across from my house daily. They followed Ellie to the bus stop. My mailbox was vandalized twice, and when I installed a camera, I was fined for unauthorized surveillance equipment. Then it got worse. My confidential work schedule, including sensitive security consulting appointments, was posted publicly on the community board. That wasn't just harassment, it was dangerous. When I confronted Mercer at his home, he stood there smug in a smoking jacket. "Women who live alone should be more concerned about their safety," he said. "Especially women with teenage daughters." The veiled threat sent a chill down my spine. He even hinted at having influence over Ellie's college application process. I kept my face neutral but walked away knowing I was dealing with a man who wouldn't stop until he controlled everything. Using my investigative background, I reached out to neighbors who'd received similar violations. We met at a Denny's outside HOA jurisdiction. 28 residents showed up. Stories poured out, people fined for uncoiled hoses, non-conforming hardware, children barred from riding bikes. And worse, the HOA reserve fund had mysteriously dropped from $300,000 to $118,000. We documented everything: violations, interactions, and HOA communications. But Mercer was always one step ahead. His informant, Dennis Keaton, reported our meeting. The next day, every attendee received a letter scheduling a $750 compliance assessment during work hours. Then came the breaking point. 2 days later, Ellie returned from her lifeguard shift. I was in the kitchen when I heard tires screech. I looked out and saw Packard and Barker blocking her in. They accused her of trespassing and attempted to detain her over unpaid fines. When she screamed for me, everything in me snapped into focus. I moved with the precision of my marshal days. As they tried to shove her into the SUV, I stormed outside. Federal Marshal Sullivan. Release my daughter. Now. Packard sneered. Former Marshal. You have no authority here. As Barker climbed into the vehicle, I grabbed him by the collar and pulled him down. Then I yanked the driver's door open and locked Packard in a hold. He struggled, but I had him on the hood in seconds. Ellie escaped the vehicle. Neighbors gathered, phones out, recording. I announced his crimes clearly, impersonating an officer, false imprisonment, and attempted kidnapping. When Wilkins arrived in a second SUV, he stayed put. Packard tried to protest. I was just following orders. Mercer said we had the authority. There is no such authority, I replied. Then the floodgates opened. Neighbors shouted their stories. Packard, seeing the tide turn, began talking. Mercer's been recording everyone. Hidden cameras. Financial fraud. Transferring HOA funds to his campaign. He's got dirt on everyone. Right then, Mercer radioed in. Bring the Sullivan girl to the office. Use whatever force necessary. Lisa Parker, Mercer's assistant, arrived with documents and a USB drive. I've been documenting everything, she said. He made me create fake notices. Transfer money. Install surveillance. Some of the cameras face bedroom windows. When police arrived, I handed Packard over. Lisa gave them everything. Ellie showed them the video. Then Mercer showed up. Oblivious to the situation, he barked, "This is a violation of community bylaws." The sergeant interrupted him. "We have evidence of multiple crimes. You're staying put." Mercer tried to run. I deflated his tires with my old field tool. 2 military veteran neighbors stopped him. When he was cuffed, he pleaded, "Sullivan, we can work something out." "Like when you sent men to take my daughter?" Packard shouted from his cruiser. "I have texts proving he ordered it." Wilkins stepped forward. "I want to cooperate." We installed the surveillance. Mercer has videos. Lisa provided even more damning evidence. Mercer had funneled over $200,000 to his campaign and a real estate company owned by his brother-in-law. He planned to force foreclosures on prime properties. The county prosecutor arrived, reviewed the evidence, and authorized a warrant. Residents lined up to give statements. Janet leaned in beside me. "You were amazing. My husband would have loved seeing this." From the back of a cruiser, Mercer sobbed. "Please let me talk to Miss Sullivan. I can fix this." But there was no fixing it. The prosecutor filed charges. Mercer's political career collapsed. His campaign funds were frozen. The community gathered on my lawn, no longer afraid. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The HOA fines were suspended. A retired judge, Raymond Michaels, became interim president. Ellie organized a Know Your Rights seminar. The neighborhood bloomed again. And Mercer? Gone. Facing years in prison. They thought I was an easy target, a single mom with a few garden gnomes. Instead, I became their reckoning. Because some fights aren't just worth either necessary. And I don't lose fights.